Hello. Hey, everybody. It's been a while. I think I skipped live last week just because I had a lot going on, but welcome back to another episode. Let me know if the mic is working. My voice is particularly deep because it's been a very meeting heavy week, both for work and just people in general. As the title suggests, today I want to talk about fall recruitment, as it is September already, September 1st, and people are going back to school in massive rates, people going back to normality, which is great. But it also means that recruitment is full in cycle. And I've been getting a lot of questions around fall recruitment, a lot of inbound emails, and a lot of consulting sessions and YouTube comments revolving around recruitment because it's time for recruitment. So I'm happy to answer any questions as it pertains to recruitment, not just in banking, but just career recruitment in general, things to look out for as people enter school again, and just to talk in general. I know I missed last week. For those just joining, I was just overwhelmed. There's been a lot of things work-wise and adjusting back to Irvine, California, and various different ventures that I've been getting my feet into, and just trying to understand what my life here is going to be, who I'm going to hang out with, and what my future entails. So there's just been a lot going on, but I'm happy to answer any questions as it pertains to banking, recruitment, especially when it comes to fall recruitment. Let me know if the mic is okay. Let me lose the gain a little bit. Thanks for joining, everybody. I'm happy to answer any questions. There's already questions before I even joined. Sorry. So Gambier asks, is MBA in finance or master's in finance better for getting into banking? I always stick with MBA. What's up, cutie? Hello. How have you been, Brian? I've been okay. I think I've been very busy. I moved back to California 2 weeks ago, and have been just grinding work-wise, self-wise, and mostly socializing and trying to get myself back into the Southern California community, which is a lot of work considering that I've been gone for 6 years. Hey, Brian. Hello. European students that want to go into investment banking in Europe, for me, it's Ireland. Yeah, I'm not as certain of the European timelines. I'm sure their calendar is different. I will say, because fall recruitment is what banking typically does after junior year, and sometimes now spring recruitment of sophomore year. I think following the U.S. calendar is probably helpful if you're aiming for a United States Wall Street bank. Thoughts on reneging an offer? So I assume reneging means you got an offer, but then you send it back. I mean, this is going to sound harsh to employers, but you got to do what you got to do. As much as they don't care about you, you should also not care about them. If they're as quick to rescinding an offer, not giving an offer, never talking about an offer, then I don't know what you owe in terms of it's reneging an offer. And it's all a numbers game at the end of the day. And there's going to be the next student that they can always hire. Just do it in a non-burning a bridge way. Then I think there's right ways to do it. So in long story short, I think it's okay to renege an offer as long as you're not burning any bridges. And the offer that you're taking instead is definitely better. I would put a lot of thought into it. Obviously, it's a good spot to be in, right? But I would always set on caution in the way that you do it. But I would do it if you believe that that's the right option. Your channel helped me with the process of getting a job at BB post graduation. Appreciate you. Oh, that's really great to hear. I'm always genuinely happy when I hear that my content or I have helped in any way. I really don't think that what I post is very helpful. I just do it because it's fun. And YouTube money is great, but if it's accumulating to positive change and people are actually benefiting tangibly, I can't ask for more. And so thank you for that feedback. If you guys have any good feedback like that, or even negative feedback, I really appreciate it. And I always try to adhere to content that could be as helpful as possible, because I recognize that there's a large gap in education and career-oriented things. For those of you just joining, I'm talking loosely about banking recruitment, fall stuff, going back to school stuff, but I'm happy to answer any questions regarding banking, careers, life, romance, whatever it may be. Not sure if I'm an expert in any of those things, but here we go. Thoughts on Guggenheim? Guggenheim is huge, John. I think Guggenheim is definitely on its way to becoming very elite boutique. I know that they've raised salaries from the start. They're very competitive. I think their tech practice is great. Their middle market practice in Chicago is well known. Their main office is in New York, I think. I've heard good things. especially if you're about the intensity of banking. So yeah, I think it's an all-around great shop to be at, especially as a junior banker. If you care about prestige and money, definitely the money part I've heard is huge at Guggenheim. How's the adjusting been so far? It's been a little hard, John. I think just going from an East Coast perspective to West Coast is always hard. Going back to my hometown is always weird. There's always a lot of adjusting to do. The fact that I've been away and I'm a different person than I was 6 years ago, and people are also different. It's also hard to combat the fact that people have been here for a while, and there's a lot of friend groups and stuff that I can't infiltrate just because they've been set. I think that's something that is really hard to swallow as an adult, realizing that there are going to be social dynamics that you will never be able to enter, the same way that we can never enter jobs a certain way if you're too late. But I'm trying my best, and I've tried my best to keep up with people back home. So I think there are certain fruits that I've grown, but it's always a hard time transitioning. What do you think about taking a role at KBW for M&A over a bulge bracket, non-M&A? I mean, it depends on what your end goals are. If you care about prestige, if you care about big name, if you care about the end goal being private equity, for example, and you are diehard, I have to go into KKR, then probably take a bulge bracket. I think it's really case by case. Private banking versus investment banking versus corporate banking thoughts. I mean, I'm obviously the biggest knowledgeable in investment banking. I just covered corporate banking recently out of curiosity. I don't know private banking that well. I always think that investment banking is the household name to go to. In the 6 years you were away from SoCal, what have you missed the most about it? That's a great question, John. Thanks for asking. So the question was, what did I miss the most about Southern California as I was away from it? I wouldn't even say the weather. I think that's a cop-out answer. I would say the people. What I mean by that is I think I've always obviously been East Coast cultured and in a weird way Southern cultured because that's where my school was based out of and how the school culture was. But I've always grown up Californian, and I've always had Californian attributes. And it's one of those weird dilemmas where, and it's an identity crisis thing that I'm not going to overplay. But as an immigrant, like I'm never fully American. As a American now, I'm never fully Korean. As a person that grew up in California, I'm never fully Californian. But as someone that went to school in the East Coast and South, I'm never fully East Coast South. But I've been really embracing that and owning that, and I kind of like the fact that I'm all those identities. Sorry, that's a long way of asking, John. I've missed the Californian people and the people that I'm the most used to. I'm attending USC, great, and really want to get to IB. Do you know any banks that recruit here? Yeah. So USC definitely recruits out of, the flip. So Julian Loki, which is based out of LA, definitely recruits out of USC and Marshall. I think there's a couple other firms, Moelis, USC, definitely. USC is definitely a target for most LA-based banks. Your content helped me for networking and got me into real estate investment boutique. I want to thank you. Oh, thank you. I don't know how I have helped. I'm really not an expert in real estate, but I'm always happy to hear that, guys. I think one of the most fruitful things I've ever done in my life is this platform. So thank you for that kind of feedback. How often are test scores asked in IB recruiting? I've never been asked test score. I'm sure like if you have a good SAT or ICT score, it sometimes stands out, but I don't think that's ever been a proponent that's a make or break. But I guess it indirectly affects it in the sense that a high test score probably means you're at a good school, which means that it's more likely for you to get a banking internship. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to catch up on these questions. I didn't even know they were flowing in. Do you think New York City baby banks like Canadian students? Yeah, I think they definitely recruit out of Canada. Obviously, their focus is target schools in the United States, but I've heard of cases that of Canadian students breaking into Wall Street bulge bracket. But I don't know if they have any higher leg ups. Obviously, they have the visa advantage and the language advantage, but international still international. There's pretty good banks in Canada, right? I've been met with a lot of Canadian students, and it seems like the banking sphere in Canada, while limited compared to the United States, isn't that bad. Would you recommend 1 year for 1.52 years, or 1.52 years trying to move to a different role in company? I would definitely try to stick it out at least a year and a half or two. I think it's not just because on an aesthetical perspective of like you having that on your resume, but more so that I think it's important to stick it out and it takes at least a year and a half to two to really understand a role and gain out of it. I think time does matter experience wise. I'm a sophomore recruiting for sophomore internship in 2022. I don't have an offer yet. Kind of worried. Does the bulk of recruiting happen in the fall? Yeah, most of recruiting does happen in the fall. That's just typically when firms come to schools and try to figure it out. Most timelines happen in the fall. I think if you're a rising junior, though, so if you're a sophomore now, then recruiting will happen in the spring. But most recruitment in general happens in the fall. Do you feel more lonely after moving? In some ways, yes. In other ways, not. I think cities are obviously more booming, right? So there's less opportunities to be lonely. You could just step outside and there's people. You can go bar hopping and stuff. I think there's more access to people that I know here. But there's a lot of time spent alone just because the suburbs are less populated and there's less bigger communities to be part of, which I enjoy. I'm not necessarily someone that thrives over. I obviously like having my close friends, but I just like people in general. So having a lot of population as a whole is important to me. For sophomore summers, if you're looking for offers from regional banks, they recruit later into the year than some of the big banks. That's great, John. That's great. That's great insight. I think it's always important, guys, to know that I don't know everything about anything, or I don't know everything about everything. So always good for people to correct me. I encourage people to go on my videos and say, you're actually wrong about that. Because I'm doing very baseline research, and I think my skills lie in taking something and explaining it simply, as opposed to like the details. I'm not a corporate banker, so I don't know much about corporate banking. I'm an incoming freshman. I'm considering an accounting degree since I'm not set on banking, but don't want to shut down the opinion. Yeah, I think having accounting degree is great. I think having any degree for banking as a backup, if it's tangible, it's great. Brian, help. I'm from the West Coast and want to go to school in the East West and want to go to school on the West Coast, but I'm moving to New York after grad. How do you deal with such big change? And go to school. Got it. I think it's just accepting that change always brings in growth. I don't think you can change without adversity. I'm a big proponent and big follower of the mentality that you need to face challenges and face discomfort to grow. And a lot of discomfort and a lot of change comes from literally changing your environment. It's not that I look down on others that don't have change of environment, but I think people that live in a set neighborhood or limit themselves to a certain geographical point really limit themselves to experiences and growth that are available in other areas. And it's not specific to the area itself, but more so that you are having a change of pace into a different area. I think that's what makes all the difference. I think embracing the mentality, John, that it's something that is a worthwhile venture will help you out. I worked in retail banking, selling mutual funds, had a minor regulatory complaint from an A-hole client. Would this mean anything in IB? No, I don't think. If you're asking on a hiring perspective, I don't know if they check regulatory complaint forms. It's like when in high school, people were like, "Oh, that's going to go in your permanent record." Do any of you guys remember the last time your permanent record was checked? I don't even know where the permanent record is. Is it still late to recruit for IBT internships now? No, I mean, it depends on what grade you're in. If you're a rising junior, definitely not. You might be late a bit on the networking game, but you could always start. It's always never too late to start. Hey, Brian, I'm 14 months into a corporate banking role and recently said in a video that you may be too late to break into IB. No, I think it's possible to go into banking from corporate banking, especially because it's such a relevant experience, especially right now with such high turnover. I think banking can really benefit from getting a corporate banking person. I will say I think they're hesitant to do so because there's always young and cheap talent coming from the undergrad side, but I've seen recent cases a lot of people coming from advisory roles, from corporate banking roles, some people even backing away from buy side. So I almost want to go back and say lateraling from, or I guess it's not really lateraling, coming from a different role is definitely possible as long as there's a finance advisory background, which corporate banking still is. John Fan, thanks. Yep. Thoughts on Macquarie IBD? Is that Australia/Canada? George, I asked because I simply don't know. If anyone in the comments know of that firm, then please comment. I don't know specifically. I'm only versed in most U.S. firms, unfortunately. Wow. For those who are joining, I'm answering generally recruiting questions as it pertains to the fall as recruiting season is starting, but it's not limited to that. We can talk about anything. I'm happy to answer questions on banking, careers, life, dating, myself, if you're interested. I guess I'll take this quick break to advertise really quick. If you guys are joining for the first time, my name is Brian John, and I just make content on whatever I want now. And new video every Saturday, live stream every Wednesday. I have a blog, brianjohn.com, if you want to check out my deeper thoughts. And I also offer one-on-one consulting using the link below if you're interested. There's so much turnover, but you'd be surprised how many applications are not even being considered. Yeah, I have heard, Ryan, that from multiple cases that you're just not even getting a higher view, which surprises me. I think that's more of a logistical issue of the pipeline not being effective. I bet there's a lot of candidates they would consider that they just simply don't because it's not showing up in the system or something goes wrong. I don't believe that you're getting disqualified because you're unqualified. I think it's more of a matter of their system is not working properly. Whoever is a developer or an entrepreneur, figure out a way for better application processing, because I can't imagine how many applications get lost just because it gets lost. Thoughts on this whole wildfire, hurricane, Taliban stuff going on? Wow, that's always asking the hard questions. I'll try to stay away from Taliban, as I know that it's a very sensitive topic and I'm not as well versed. Wildfire, hurricane, are we surprised? I'm in Southern California. There was a wildfire literally 3 days ago. The end is coming. What can I say? Brian, do you know which banks sponsor that are still recruiting for IBD? Yeah, sorry, I don't know any specifics. I would always look at the bigger banks than the smaller banks just because they have more capability of sponsoring. And I think most HR people are very upfront about whether or not they sponsor or not. So just reach out to the HR head and say, are you guys a firm that offers sponsorships? And make sure that is made clear in the beginning so that you don't waste your time recruiting. What target schools are there? There's an infinity amount, depending on the firm, depending on whatever, but it's those that you typically think would be. So like the UPenns of the world, that are known for business, that are known for finance, and are typically just good schools to begin with. The trap here, Francisco, that I think I've learned is there are schools that are technically good, that you've heard of, but are not target schools because they're more focused on other things like STEM. Quality of candidates are getting worse every year. That's an interesting point. I think I would assume that because there are more fields and industries than ever that offer similar compensation for less work, that there is definitely being a diversion of candidacy and a dilution of candidate quality, because back in the day, everyone that's smart, everyone that's hardworking went into banking, law, or doctor. But now, you could be a million different things. You could trade crypto if you want. So I would assume that just by definition that the average quality of candidates are probably going down, but the supply of good client candidates probably will never go down. Tips for using dating apps as an Asian. I'm not an expert in dating apps. I wouldn't let the Asian thing limit you. Just go for it, my dude. The world is your oyster. I've learned recently, there's no time to care about other people's opinions when it comes to dating. Just go for who you want. Counts equity. Is there a movie you don't get tired of watching? Yes. I can watch School of Rock, Farewell with Aquafina, and Inception any time of day, as many times as possible. Do you think it's easier for a woman to go into IB? It's easier to go. Let me answer it a different way. Obviously, there's women diversity programs, which makes it easier, but there's also tons of women going for those positions. So I don't know if it makes it any tangibly easier. I think women tend to be better than men at networking. So perhaps it's an easier way in. But statistically, it's hard to say because there's less women than men in banking. I don't know if that's a result of it being artificially more difficult or actually more difficult. Do you think CFA designation is becoming less relevant? Nesty, delete the comment. I guess you don't care anymore. Do you think it's easier to get a hedge fund from IBD or S&T? Probably IBD, because you need financial analysis. I don't see many hedge funds recruiting for sales and traders. You need the ability to understand performance. Sales and trading is less about performance and more about selling the stocks or the transactions of stocks. Good offshoots for ECM. I don't know what that means. I know what ECM means, but I don't know what good offshoots mean. Do you think getting into IB sorry, you got to finish your question, Gregory. I meant more and more irrelevant. Might be. Yeah. I think CFA, I don't think it's irrelevant. I just think I never thought it was actually relevant to getting promoted, if that's what you mean. Hey, Brian, really enjoy your content. Good, good work, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, Wall Street Skate Pro. Do you think it's possible to get into IB as a non-US citizen? Yeah, I know non-US citizens in investment banking. It's just you got to make sure that if you're talking about Wall Street or like American banks in general, make sure that they're sponsoring. Like Exit Ops. Oh, Exit Ops for ECM. I'm not sure. I'll look into it. I'm not sure. I don't know anyone in ECM specifically. Not sure if you know this, but do you know what the pay structure generally is for corporate banking versus IB? Someone said in my recent comments that the base is the same, and they've raised that recently. So I'm guessing it's around the 100K, 105K mark. Someone commented on my corporate banking that the raises were similar, and it used to be 85, 90, 95, and now it's like 100, 110, 115. And then the bonuses are lower. Who's that on the cup? Oh, I thought I bragged about this before. So a little shout out. My friend Coleman Martinson owns a company called Mugshot Mugs where they print anything on mugs. And this is myself when I was kind of fat. Do you think CFA level 1 helps to break into IB or M&A? I don't think CFAs ever were a make it or break it for banking. And I don't think it's ever been like, oh, this guy's a CFA, therefore he should be a good candidate. What matters far more is target school and your ability to network. Mugshot Mug. Oh, Nicholas Watson. What's up, my dude? Tell Coleman I just gave him a shout out. Do you think it's possible to get IBD full-time from S&T internships? Yeah. I know people personally that have jumped from S&T summer and then realized that they hated it and then they got into IB. I also know people flipped that had an IB summer and then went to S&T full-time. I think it crafts a good story of you understanding the financial advisory market, but understanding what you are good at / like and what you don't like. Do you own any cryptos? Yeah. Do I own any cryptos? Am I allowed to talk about what I have? Yeah, I have Ethereum Classic. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I love this cup. I've never drank out of it actually. It's just more for show. Did you prefer MBA associates or ADA associates? ADA associates. They're just better because they have more experience. But I've had a lot of good MBA associate friends, but I think on a work quality standpoint, just by logic, ADA associates are typically better. What are Series 65 and 66? I don't know the difference, but they're FINRA regulated licenses that you need to be a financial representative. Would a Credit Suisse software analyst interview easier? Can you have study sessions? I don't know what that means, Dion. Do you want to clarify? Hey, I'm 26, recent grad from FIT. I'm thinking about doing a master's in finance, applying for internships. Is there any other creator? I would say being an investor and going to IB is slightly different. IB allows you to break into institutions like private equity and hedge funds that deal with institutional investor money. And ultimately, you could become a partner where you're dealing with billions of dollars. But if you want to become an investor early on, then you might as well just start your own thing. I'm thinking about studying comp sci. Do you think that IBs are looking for software engineers or finance majors? I think banks and financial institutions and hedge funds are looking for software engineers. But if you're interested and are good at comp sci, I would not go into IB. I would become a software engineer for a financial institution. If you can have the cross section between software engineering / comp sci and finance, you are the GOAT. That is the two industries that will never go away and makes the most amount of money. Better offer, trading at hedge fund or IBD? Hedge fund. Hedge fund is much cooler. If you have both, why not go for hedge fund? Unless you like advisory instead of investing, which I find very hard to believe. Obviously, hedge fund is very high stress. It's very hard to overcome that. It's very high cutthroat and purely performance based. But I mean, if I went back in time and if I had both, I would go for hedge fund. That just sounds fun. Why would you go into IB if you were studying CS, bruh? Yeah, I agree. I think if you were studying for CS, you have far cooler options than IB. Best work perk you've had in your career. As a foodie, I would definitely say the meal reimbursement company card in banking. That at the time, I think now it's $50 a day, but at the time it was $30 a day. And for the first time, I was just spending money on food and buying things that I would never buy with my own money, like dessert. I start school tomorrow. Good luck, accounts equity. When did you know for sure that you wanted to go into IB? Never. I don't think I ever knew for sure that I wanted to go into IB, but I pursued it actively starting my sophomore year summer. I'll be at a BB next summer. What technical skills should I master before I start? None. They'll teach you on the job. And every bank does things differently. And I would enjoy the life that you have left before then. Would you say a minor in CS would be helpful? I think anything in CS is helpful. How to maintain relationships in IB. Being overly communicative, but not getting on people's nerves. And just staying connected, grabbing beers after work. Would you say, can you break into a hedge fund from M&A? Yep, I know people that have done it. You just got to study on your own a little bit and learn how public markets work. I would eat Chipotle every single day with those $15. I try to change it up and get various things with those $30. What are the main roles in IB? By main roles, do you mean like the types of work that you do, or like roles and positions? Like there's analyst, associate, VP, director, and MD. And then by role, if you mean industry or group, there's like M&A, there's ECM, there's DCM, there's equity research, there's debt capital markets. There's just so many different. What GPA is suitable for IB? Most firms have a 3.3 or 3.5 cutoff. You probably already talked about this, probably. But I'm just wondering, what's the best alternative route to IB if you're late for fall recruiting? I would still try if you're a rising junior. Otherwise, probably Big Four advisory and then lateraling or then MBA. Tips for interview. AM specifically. I don't know asset management very well, Sam, but phone interview, I always stand up, look into a mirror, and act like I'm talking to a person because I think there's gestures and stuff that goes a lot better if you're physically acting like someone's in front of you as opposed to laying in your bed. Are people starting to use blockchain in IB? Maybe. I doubt anyone in IB is as advanced, or they're trying to be, but I think blockchain is they're a little late to the game. But I'm sure, like, I mean, you see like JP Morgan buying into crypto, right? Left fin or IBD? Left fin is sexy, right? That's like one of the hypest parts of IB, but it depends on what company you're at. How do I memorize all the questions on Breaking to Wall Street? Don't memorize. Practice so that it comes off your mouth and you can do things naturally. But I wouldn't memorize. You are an American hero. I don't know about that. I'm definitely an American. I don't know if I'm a hero. How many super days did you end up doing? Actually, the actual super days I ended up completing probably 3, I think. Were you restricted to list deals on your resume unless they were public? I would assume so, yeah. I just did it by project name. Thoughts on project finance infrastructure focused jobs? No thoughts, as I know nothing about what that is. Python or Excel? 2 very different things. Depends on what you're going into. Both are necessary to be, I think, employable in the near future. Hardest technical you've ever been asked? Great question, Skylar. I'm trying to think of a super day where I kept getting pushed and I kept getting things right, so they asked harder and harder. I think there was like a beta related question that I just failed to understand. I knew the concept, but I think I was just struggling under pressure. What banks went to your school? Raymond James, Harris Williams, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citi, Bank of America. And then a couple of small banks. That's about it, I think. Do you think Delta is more dangerous than the first variant? No. I think that a lot of that stuff is being hyperinflated for various different reasons. I do not think it's more dangerous, but based off nothing. I'm not a scientist. Isn't the debt market way more interesting than the equity side? Is it? Maybe for origination and price, sure. But I also, I don't know. That's a hard question, bro. I always thought equity was more interesting, but sure. What subjects did you major in? Accounting and business administration. I'm applying to investing clubs in my schools. Any advice? Make sure you know your stuff. A lot of them are going to be like hardos that really care about investing. They're going to really grill you, and try not to lie. Make sure that you have some kind of self-investing portfolio so you could speak about. Is Penn State a target school? Probably not. I don't think Penn State's like the greatest of schools. Maybe some banks hire out of there, but I wouldn't say it's a target school. UPenn is, though. I'm a Virginia VTech, majoring in IT and finance. Do any good roles with the major? I don't know. IT and tech or finance are both hot, very hot, right? And Virginia Tech is a tech hub. It's not a target school for banking, though. What makes restructuring so appealing? That's a great question. I think it is one of those things where it's sexy because it's sexy, and it's like the top banking thing to do. I also think there's a lot of money to be had in restructuring. It's also very complicated, and complicated things are also always cool to get into. Also, guys, I'm going to sign off in probably like a minute or two. But thanks everyone for joining. I'll answer all these last questions. Equity research offer or IBD? I try to go for IBD. I think ER is a little on the lower end. Is there a route for structured or left fin to pure M&A? Yeah, definitely. I think I've seen people do it. Thoughts on PJT? PJT, is that different from Solomon? I started a FinTech club at VT. That's sick. You get into like, yeah, we have good advice there. How important do you think the Finra exams if you're interested in IB? I mean, you have to pass them to work, but the banks will handhold you and hire companies to help you basically pass it. Does Brian talk or type faster? I type pretty fast. Fun fact. It's one of my few tangible skills, but I think I might be able to talk faster than I type. We love you. Thanks for the info. Thank you, Francisco. How do I study the technicals? You looked at guides and online things free. Yeah, guys, I think I'm gonna sign off just because one, my neck hurts, but two, I have to go. But I really appreciate all of you guys joining. About 40 people. Just last minute influencer advertisement stuff, but I do these live every Wednesday, answering people's questions. I have I have a new video coming out every Saturday. I sometimes post two videos a week if I feel like it. I have a blog, brianjen.com, if you guys are interested in my real thoughts, uncensored thoughts. And I offer one-on-one consulting if you're interested in career consulting using the link below. But anyways, I always thank you guys for watching. I thank you guys for joining. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to ask. And I always appreciate feedback. Like, you help me do this, you help me get that, because that's really what makes my life fun. Thank you so much. Yeah, Julian Ruse, I can give you a shout out. Shouting out Julian Ruiz, who wants a shout out. But thanks, everyone. And I will see you guys next time.